1988, the final chapter in Cathay Pacific's long and colorful history at Kai Tak Airport, the end of an era. Over the years, millions of planes have landed and taken off, and hundreds of millions of passengers have gone their merry way. Do you know how much fuel, how many meals, how much jet lag that represents? I don't have a clue, but it's an interesting thought.
Hong Kong has had a long history as a flourishing seaport. For over 150 years, it has been an important hub for merchants and traders from all over the world. As sailing ships gave way to engine-driven vessels, it wasn't too long before the importance of air transportation became clear. In 1925, the aerodrome at Kai Tak opened, and an aircraft owned by the Commercial Air Company was the first to take off from the grass airstrip. It wasn't until 1936 that the airport went from being a flying club and military base to a viable commercial operation. Kai Tak provided the opportunity to create air transportation routes which would in turn greatly increase trade and passenger throughput. Cathay Pacific Airways was founded in Hong Kong on the 24th of September 1946 by two enterprising adventurers, American Roy Farrell and Australian Sidney de Cansow. The pair had met during World War II while flying for the China National Aviation Company, and had shared a vision of starting a trading empire in China after the war.
They were men that had vision and a goal, and they wouldn't let any obstacle stand in their way without accomplishing it, and they accomplished what their dreams were. And this is the uniqueness of the men. They seized the time and allowed their dreams to be fulfilled.
Dad was, I understand, a very straight, no-nonsense man. Larger than life, liked a good time, enjoyed his friends.
In 1945, Farrell bought Betsy, a refurbished C-47. She was later converted to a civilian DC-3 and became Cathay Pacific's first aircraft.
The sergeant that was in charge of them said that there wouldn't be any planes in, so Dad visited with him, and then on the way out left a case of Black Label Scotch in his Jeep. Got a call 3 days later and said, "Captain Farrell, the plane that you wanted is in."
In 1946, Farrell was operating a highly lucrative cargo run between China and Australia. With enormous demand for consumer goods in Shanghai and shipping in short supply, the cargo of woolen goods brought back from Australia provided a quick turnover and high profits.
That was a period and a time that only comes very, very seldom in history. But Dad had the personality, and he was the type of man with the drive to seize the opportunities at the time.
Meeting up again in 1946, Farrell and de Cansow formed a partnership and continued to operate their flourishing Shanghai-based import-export business, acquiring another DC-3, which they named Nicky.
And my father was on a stop picking up some passengers to fly back to China, and met my mum, and my mother actually gave my father a note to give to somebody else. She was interested in somebody else, and of course my father never passed that note on. They finally, 4 or 5 months later, they got back together again and decided on the date, and got married in Shanghai in 1946.
However, their success aroused some jealousy from local businessmen who restricted their movements and made it difficult for them to continue in the same way. They decided to go to Hong Kong, where they founded Cathay Pacific Airways.
Cathay Pacific was founded in a bar in Manila, apparently. A couple of guys got together with Roy, journalists I understand, and they had a few drinks and thought about Cathay. They liked Cathay, and Pacific was logical because one day they wanted to fly the Pacific.
Kai Tak provided the opportunity to operate charter passenger and cargo flights to Manila, Bangkok, Singapore, and Shanghai. and even as far afield as Australia and the United Kingdom. Scheduled services to Southeast Asia followed. Expansion was fast. In 1947, Cathay Pacific bought an additional 5 DC-3s. By 1948, the airline business was outgrowing its post-war pioneering ways and settling down to a more orderly approach to business, with fixed schedules and increasing government regulation. To keep ahead of the rest of the field, Cathay Pacific needed to upgrade its fleet. Enter one of Hong Kong's leading trading companies, Butterfield & Swire, who had been considering investing in aviation. A part of today's Swire Group, the company had made its name in shipping and sensed that international transport would increasingly take place by air as well as by sea. The outcome was that a new company, Cathay Pacific, was formed in 1948 with Butterfield & Swire, Australian National Airways, and Farrell & DeCansau as shareholders.
Dad and Sid met while flying the hump and became very good friends and had a common dream of starting business in the Orient. And it was actually a match, so to speak, made in heaven with their different talents. Dad being an entrepreneur, Sid being the detail man, the organizer, and that is why Cathay had such early success.
As Kai-Tak, Cathay continued to expand in the 1950s by buying its first DC-4 4-engined aircraft, which was double the size of its DC-3s. It was at this time that Cathay Pacific formed an alliance with the Hong Kong Aircraft Engineering Company, which still maintains Cathay Pacific's aircraft today. With an injection of funds from new shareholder shipping giant P&O, Cathay Pacific was able to purchase a DC-6, its first pressurized aircraft, and in 1958, a DC-6B. This aircraft was fast, could fly from Singapore to Hong Kong non-stop, and was equipped with radar. As Kai-Tak, Cathay Pacific had quickly established a solid reputation with business travelers, many of whom had long used Swire ships for transporting their freight. In 1959, the airline absorbed Hong Kong Airways, and now, with the northern routes out of Hong Kong, it could truly build a regional network. The same year, the airline took delivery of its first turbine aircraft, 2 Lockheed L-188 Electras, and for the first time introduced first and economy classes. Entering the jet age was a daunting but vital step for Cathay Pacific. Competitors were switching to longer, faster aircraft, and Hong Kong's airline had to make a choice: either develop and upgrade their fleet or remain a small regional carrier. Cathay Pacific decided to upgrade. By 1967, the airline had an all-jet fleet of 5 Convair 880s. This was Cathay Pacific's coming of age. Between 1962 and 1967, business grew at an average rate of 20% a year. In 1964, the company carried its millionth passenger. In 1973, it was carrying that many people a year. Today, it carries 1 million people a month. Again, the 1970s presented the same challenges and problems that Cathay Pacific had faced before: enlarge and upgrade its fleet, or lose ground to its competitors. Beginning with a fleet of Boeing 707s, the company eventually settled for Rolls-Royce-powered TriStars, nearly twice the size of 707s. Another breakthrough was the use of computer technology. This transformed the airline from a slow paper-based bureaucracy to a highly efficient and paperless environment, which today boasts one of the most sophisticated information systems of any airline. It was in the next decade that Cathay Pacific became truly global. With new international routes to North America and Europe, and increasing air travelers within the Asian region, the airline greatly increased the number of its flights. By the end of the 1980s, the airline had a fleet of 17 TriStars, 19 747s, which included 2 freighters, and a Rolls-Royce ultra-long-haul 747-400. Receiving the coveted Airline of the Year award from the Air Transport World magazine in 1987, Cathay Pacific had finally come of age. Today, as Cathay Pacific looks to the future, it has assembled one of the most modern fleets of aircraft in the world, with the TriStars bowing out in favor of brand new Airbus industry A330s and A340s and Boeing 777s. In addition to its new passenger services, such as personalized TVs for every seat and a wider range of entertainment, cuisine, and other in-flight services, the airline has also invested over $440 million on its headquarters at the new Checkerboard Airport. The new airport, designed to replace Kai Tak in 1998, confirms Hong Kong as Asia's premier air hub. And to Cathay Pacific, it guarantees room for extensive and continued growth.
I think it's truly fantastic that in 50 years Hong Kong can move from grass strip and roadway to a huge international airport, which is now going to be the largest, I believe, in the world. I think our fathers would be very proud.
Kai Tak, it really is a sense of excitement in the growth of Cathay Pacific, from the vision and the dream early on of our dads to what it is today and what the future holds with the new airport.
You know, I'm always amazed how these huge planes actually fly. With a weight of 400 passengers, all their luggage, and the plane itself, the power needed to take off, let alone keeping us in the air at 30,000 feet while traveling 900 kilometers per hour for 15 hours. Yet, they're surprisingly fuel efficient. Per person, per kilometer, they actually use less fuel than the average car. And trips that used to take 5 days can now be done in a few hours.
Ma'am, would you like something to drink? An apple juice and water?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And you, ma'am? Thank you. You're welcome.
Drink some?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One of Kai Tak Airport's most memorable features for millions of Cathay Pacific travelers has been the exhilarating approach over the rooftops of Kowloon City. As the new airport at Checkerboard swings into operation, inner-city airports like Kai Tak are becoming a fading relic of aviation history. For many, the approach on runway 13 will soon be a faint memory. So why don't you join us? Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight with Cathay Pacific.
Ladies and gentlemen, the captain speaking. We're just commencing our approach into Kai Tak International Airport in Hong Kong.
The weather is fine. During the approach, we'll have Kowloon City on the right-hand side of the aircraft, and in the distance, you'll be able to see Hong Kong. We do hope you've enjoyed
Your flight with us, and we look forward to seeing you on board Cathay Pacific again in the very near future. Thank you and good day.
flying over the ocean, but this time coming in over the city. It's that real buzz, that feeling of Hong Kong. You're landing in Kai Tak.
And then finally you go over the flyover where you feel as if you're entering the double-decker buses, and then you touch down immediately.
You get closer and closer to the buildings, and you think you're almost going to hit them, and then all of a sudden the plane just tucks down in and you're safely on the ground, but it's really exciting coming in.
The weather conditions are often quite challenging, although today, as you can see, it's a beautiful day, but still the wind variation you get challenges you as a pilot. And when you land on the southeasterly runway, land nicely, passengers are happy, you can go home knowing you've done a very good job.
From an initial investment of $30,000 US and a crate of whiskey, to a share issue that attracted $6.5 billion in applications. From a converted World War II military transport aircraft to an ultra-modern fleet of more than 60 Rolls-Royce-powered wide-body jets. From 3,000 passengers a year to 10 million. The story of Kai Tak Airport and Cathay Pacific Airways is unique in the annals of commercial aviation. And now, to the future.
As one life ends, another begins. This is Chek Lap Kok, Hong Kong's new airport, and the start of another adventure.